In the NFL, the art of intimidation can be a game changer. Players who are feared by their opponents can get into their heads, throwing them off their game. When you really think about it, football is a sport rooted in intimidation. Quarterbacks intimidate defenses with their arm strength and precision, while linebackers take a more traditional approach, delivering crushing hits that can set the tone for an entire game. Defensive players often come to mind when we think of intimidation, but don't be mistaken. Lightning-fast runners, stonewall offensive linemen, and deep-threat wide receivers have also struck fear into their opponents throughout the years. In today's video, we're counting down the top 10 most feared and scariest players in NFL history. Let's get started. Number 10. Jim Brown. For the old-school fans out there who say, I don't give enough credit to the greats of the past, here's one for you. Jim Brown absolutely dominated the NFL in the 1960s. He was a perfect blend of size, speed, and brute strength, making him an unstoppable force during his time with the Cleveland Browns. The three-time MVP set countless records in his relatively short career, and it often took more than one defender to bring him down. What made Jim Brown so feared was that he was simply better at every facet of the game than his opponents. He wasn't just a bruiser, he had finesse, skill, and a football IQ that left defenders scrambling to figure out how to stop him. Number 9. Ray Nitschke. Ray Nitschke is another name that old-school fans will appreciate. After a rough rookie season with the Green Bay Packers in 1958, where the team won only one game, Nitschke led his team to 5 championships, including the first 2 Super Bowls ever played. He made his name as a ferocious linebacker known for delivering crushing hits, but he wasn't just about brute force. Nitschke also intercepted 25 passes during his career. He was likely one of the first NFL players that made opponents think, I do not want to run into the hole he's filling. With his intimidating scowl and no-nonsense style of play, Nitschke epitomized the old-school linebacker, mean, relentless, and always ready to back up his reputation with his play on the field. Number 8. Barry Sanders. Initially, I thought this list would be all about defensive players, but as I mentioned earlier, offensive players can be just as intimidating. Enter Barry Sanders. If you were a linebacker or defensive lineman in the 90s, facing Barry Sanders was downright terrifying. Sanders wasn't just elusive, he was a true home run threat every time he touched the ball. Despite his relatively small stature, his leg strength allowed him to carry defenders down the field, making him one of the most intimidating runners in NFL history. Barry Sanders may not have looked intimidating at first glance, but his ability to make defenders miss and his breakaway speed made him the kind of player that defenders dreaded facing. Sanders could turn any play into a touchdown, and his quick cuts left many defenders looking foolish, as if they didn't know where they were on the field. Number 7. Dick Butkus. When you think of the word intimidation in football, Dick Butkus is likely the first name that comes to mind. This legendary linebacker finished his career with over 1,000 tackles, most of them bone-shattering. Butkus was one of the most feared players in NFL history, and just looking at him you can see why. The man looked like the epitome of a mean, tough football player, from his mustache to his brutal hits. Whether it was stuffing the run or dropping back into coverage, Butkus was a nightmare for opposing offenses. You wouldn't want to run up the middle when Butkus was waiting, and you certainly wouldn't want to test him over the middle in the passing game. He was the embodiment of old-school football toughness. Number 6. Ed Reed. Ed Reed makes this list not just for his bone-crushing hits, but also for his remarkable ball-hawking skills. A 5-time All-Pro, Reed led the NFL in interceptions 3 times during his career. He wasn't just a safety who played deep and waited for the ball to come to him. He was an all-around elite defender. Reed could make you look foolish by baiting quarterbacks into thinking they had an open receiver only to pick off the pass and take it to the house. He could also lay the wood, coming down from his safety position to deliver punishing hits on receivers and running backs. When 2 of the greatest football minds, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, named Reed as the defender they least wanted to face, you know he was a truly intimidating presence on the field. Number 5. Randy Moss. At first glance, you might think this list would be filled with defensive players, but Randy Moss earns a spot for being arguably the most frightening deep threat in NFL history. Moss burst onto the scene in 1998 with 17 touchdowns in his rookie year and set an NFL record with 23 touchdown receptions in 2007 with the New England Patriots. During his prime, there wasn't a coverage scheme that could stop Moss from making plays down the field. He combined blazing speed with a freakish ability to high-point the football, making him nearly impossible to cover one-on-one. Whether you were a fast cornerback like Deion Sanders or a bigger, more physical corner, Moss had an answer for you. His attitude was just as intimidating as his play. Moss knew he was better than everyone else, and he let you know it. Number 4. Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith, the all-time leader in sacks, was a nightmare for quarterbacks throughout the 1990s. As a key player for the Buffalo Bills, Smith possessed a rare blend of size, strength, and speed, making him an unstoppable force on the defensive line. His footwork was second to none among defensive linemen, and his relentless pursuit of quarterbacks made him a terror on the field. Smith wasn't just physically gifted, he played with a mean streak and a motor that never quit. Offensive linemen found it nearly impossible to block him, and quarterbacks dreaded facing him. Smith's intensity and unyielding drive set him apart, as he showed no mercy and consistently made life miserable for his opponents. When you're the all-time leader in sacks, you've earned your place as one of the most feared players in NFL history, and Bruce Smith undoubtedly was. Number 3. Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis is probably a lot of people's favorite defensive player, and for good reason. Lewis played for 15 years, and he only seemed to get better with age. He was one of the most emotional leaders in NFL history, and his passion made him that much more intimidating. His teammates fed off his energy, while his opponents feared what he might do next. Lewis was a bigger linebacker for his era, and he always knew where to be on the field, delivering punishing blows on seemingly every tackle. Ask any running back from the 2000s who they least wanted to face one-on-one, and most will say Ray Lewis. He was the embodiment of an intimidating defensive player, with his bionic arm brace, fearsome face mask, and visor. Whether it was early in his career with the retro Ravens jerseys or later on with his imposing look, Ray Lewis was the last guy any offensive player wanted to see across the line of scrimmage. Number 2. Reggie White. Reggie White was a defensive end who struck terror into offensive players, establishing himself as the NFL's most intimidating presence before Bruce Smith's era. With the power to toss offensive linemen, including all-pro stars like Larry Allen, aside with a single hand, White was a dominant force. His speed allowed him to quickly turn the corner and reach the quarterback, making him an even more formidable threat. At the height of his career, White was unparalleled in his fearsome reputation. He embodied the complete defensive package with his impressive size, strength, speed, and an aggressive attitude. For anyone who played in the NFL during the late 80s and 90s, Reggie White was undeniably a force of nature on the field, leaving a lasting legacy as one of football's most dominant defensive players. Number 1. Lawrence Taylor. The moment you've all been waiting for. The scariest player in NFL history is Lawrence Taylor. The original LT burst onto the scene as a rookie with the New York Giants in 1981 and never looked back. Taylor revolutionized the outside linebacker position with his aggressive, downhill style and unmatched ability to bring the pain on every play. His 20.5 sacks in 1986 were a testament to his dominance, and he was a 9-time consecutive All-Pro. Taylor was the kind of player who could take over a game by himself, and he did so with a level of intensity and ferocity that few ever matched. He once said he wanted to go out on the field like a bunch of crazed dogs and wreak havoc on his opponents, and that's exactly what he did. Lawrence Taylor is without a doubt the most intimidating player in NFL history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss out on our latest NFL content. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. Stay tuned for in-depth analysis and highlights from the NFL world. Let's celebrate the spirit of the game together and promote respect and sportsmanship in professional football.